ever since the initial release of the iconic Limbo back in 2010, many developers have tried to put their spin on the noir puzzle platformer. Now sees the turn of Albert and Otto, developed by Kbros Games. If anything, it's unfair to compare Albert and Otto to Limbo, as it brings enough of its own characteristics to the table, but unfortunately, due to an inconsistent final third, this noir adventure struggles to meet the high expectations set back in 2010. As you'd expect with the art style, the story of Albert and Otto is about as ambiguous as they come. The game opens up with a young bunny-eared girl disappearing in a puff of smoke, and then throws you into the role of Albert, a young gun-wielding boy. Not far into your adventure, you come across the contrasting red bunny. Not only does Otto carry the cool, provocative red look, but he also grants you with some pretty useful abilities, but more on those abilities later. The main narrative loop of the game comes through the opening of drawings left behind by the missing young girl. Although there is no dialogue in Albert and Otto, these simplistic drawings tell enough of a picture for you to understand the game's main direction, which turns surprisingly dark towards the end of its 2 to 3 hour playthrough. This almost pretentious way of telling the game's story through pictures fits in perfectly with the overall design of the game, and with it only being the first episode of a 4-part series, I look forward to seeing where the story goes next. As I previously mentioned, the little red Otto isn't there just for his cuteness, more importantly, his puzzle solving abilities. The logistically challenging puzzles that you'll come across in Albert and Otto sit in a similar vein to the previously mentioned Limbo. These require you to manipulate switches and move parts in the environment. The puzzles here are genuinely brilliant, apart from the last third of the episode, but again, more on that later. Almost every puzzle I came across would make me stop and really think about the outcome. It's fair to say that the puzzles here don't feel impossible, and the solution can often be found after several fails, but nevertheless, solving them still brings a real sense of achievement. Unfortunately, the brilliant puzzle designs from the first 2/3 of the game don't carry through until the end. For some surprising reason, the game takes more of an action platforming approach to its final stages, and although this plays out in a boss fight fashion, it is by far the weakest part of the first episode of Albert and Otto. My lack of fondness for this section fell down to 2 distinct reasons. Firstly, the gameplay element of the final stages is very trial and error, meaning there's almost no way to finish a section without dying a few times first. This would be fine if it wasn't for the poorly placed checkpoints, which lead me on to my second reason. The distance between these checkpoints is hugely different from the rest of the game, sometimes sending you back 3 or 4 puzzles just because you didn't know how to complete a new puzzle on your first time of trying. I understand the developers want to ramp up the difficulty in the final stages, especially as it's a boss style fight, but rather than bringing a sense of achievement like the rest of the game done so effectively, finishing this boss fight brought more of an about time feeling. The atmospheric world of Albert and Otto offers some very fun puzzles to solve and an intriguing dark narrative to follow. The pace at which you're granted abilities fits in well with the different situations the game challenges you to overcome. The decision to take a more fast-paced route in the final third can leave a slightly bitter taste in your mouth, but with this said, this is only the first episode for Albert and Otto, and the first 2/3 of the game have got me excited to see where developers Kbros Games take the story in episode 2. To see what other indie games released this week, why not check out this week's indie game console releases? And to keep up to date with other indie game news and see what we've been playing, why not check out the Indie Credible podcast? And for more on indie games news, previews and reviews, make sure you subscribe and check out indie-credible.com.